Hello there, welcome to my tutorial about children and education in Rimworld Biotech. I'm Icon and this video will give you everything you need to know to found your own dynasty on a remote planet and get away successful with it. There's timestamps in the description box, and if you're looking for a certain answer about children and education, just check it out and I hope you'll find your answers there. And if not, just leave me a comment and I'll see what I can do for you. I also made a couple of other videos about the DLC, explaining everything about mechanidas, sangophages, and genes and xenotypes, so you might want to check out the playlist in the description box also. First part of this video is a quick summary about how the whole procedure of family building in this DLC works, and then I'm going to break up every little detail of that procedure and explain it so you can have fun in the future with the family building of this DLC, because it has a lot of really cool things. Before I go into the summary, a quick shout out to the support links in the description box. There's PayPal, Patreon, and Buy Me a Coffee as ways and means to support this channel, and as a free content creator I would be really delighted if you'd check them out, because I can really use all the help that I can get. And see, my colonists are even having a party, and I'll be really cheering to all the supporters here as well that are already making the dream come true. My colony is cheering it to you as well. So with that being said, let's get started with a quick summary there. So in this DLC, you get to raise your children from the stage of a fetus over to a baby, over to a children, and then to a fully grown colonist. You can have pregnancies in the classical and in a technological way. I'm going to talk about both methods there. You get to raise your children over the course of many years. This is a very time-intense hobby. And then you get a really lot of influence about how this colonist will develop if you have the resource and the successful setup. So this is a ways and means to practically build your own colonist without cheating, and it's pretty cool and gives you a long-term incentive to play colonies, and that's what I really like about it so far. So I'm going to start with the first part here, and let's talk about babies. So first off, I'm going to talk about the classical pregnancy, so, you know, the one with the relationships and all. And later in the tech part of this video, I'm going to talk about the ways and means how you can do that with a growth vat. So if you want to check that out, go click the timestamp link. So classical pregnancy, of course, you need a relationship first. Sometimes you get your colonists also just pregnant right away, and you don't know who the father is, but usually relationship or just some other form of loving, and there can be an offspring. When two people cross their genomes, genes will be passed on, so xenotypes matter. If you cross a Neanderthal with a baseliner, a part of these genes will be passed down to the child. And if you mix two wild xenotypes like an impet or a pigskin, then you get even more different wild gene mixtures. So this is a pretty fun way of making things happen that would normally not happen. Alright, with that being said, after a while in a double bed, you will have a pregnancy, which is split up in 3 trimesters. A Rimworld pregnancy lasts 18 days, and every trimester has different debuffs. The first trimester is pretty harmless, so I skipped it in this regard, and the second and third trimester give you pretty severe debuffs, mood swings, and a really heightened hunger in general. So that means a pregnancy puts a strain on your colony. The mother will be not able to work as well. She'll be also more prone to mental breakdowns, so you really got to take care, and therefore, well, do your planning accordingly and do your best to keep the mother safe. So with that being said, let's go further over the course of the pregnancy. So 18 days, like I said, second trimester, you see the debuffs here. Let's move on over to the next trimester. And you see third trimester is where the parts where it's really getting nasty, moving -50% also makes the person really vulnerable. -50% is really, really nasty. Take care of that. This lowers the move speed quite severely. And yeah, but apart from that, it's just a waiting game. In the third trimester, make sure that you have a medical room available. A high cleanliness is really not is really preferable. So if you can put up a proper hospital, it's pretty good. But it's no necessity. A normal bed works too. But keep it as clean as possible. So then you have to wait. Let's start the labors here manually, and then you see once the labor starts, you get a new button here, gather for childbirth, and then you get a menu that's very similar to the ones that you see in Ideologen. So here it's important to mention that you can select the doctor and spectators and a loved one. This is all improving the quality of the birth. What's that good for, you might ask yourself? It's influencing the chance of a healthy childbirth. So if you don't want to have any chances of of failures or bad, you can configure that in the custom storyteller settings. And then the birth goes on, and it's a pretty lengthy process. And so make sure that your doctors are well fed and rested before you start that. And if everything goes right, if you have done your preparations right and you're lucky, at the end of the stage, you'll have a baby. That's the easy part of that. A baby now needs to be taken care of. First off, let's make sure that the mother is together with her father here, and let's prep up the room. When you have a baby, you need a bed for it, so that's the crib, or where is the crib at? Here, a crib. And then there's decoration and toy boxes. So these influence the happiness of the baby, and generally just put one of each into the room and you're set. So the baby is going to be fed by the mother most of the time. If you don't have a healthy mother around, because, you know, life on the rim is hard, you can also cook baby food at the stove, which is the next best thing. Make sure that in the work priority table, you have enough people with a high priority on childcare. And if not anything, the mother itself should have a top-notch priority on that. So she'll always take care of the needs of the baby. And then you have to wait and wait and wait some, and then wait some more. Until then, the mother of the child will be not really good for anything. Forgive me when I say it like that, but there is a constant strain of breastfeeding, and don't expect the mom to be working too much on the colony. So the pregnancy really takes out one colonist mostly out of the work schedule. It really depends on your setup, and it really depends on how things are mixed up, but altogether you get the idea. So you can, of course, outsource that work to other colonists as well with the childcare command. So let's leave the sphere of babies, because after this point it's really all about having constant food and keeping the baby in a safe environment, and most of the time colonists will do that on their own. Let's move time forward a little bit and add a couple of days on that baby boy. So time passes for babies faster. So when we click there, as you see here, 1 day translates into 4 days. And the child will now will stay a baby now until it's 3 years old. So 3 years that pass 4 times faster, so you get the idea. And once that time's over, the baby turns into a child. So let's enter the children section of this video. Once the baby has turned into a child, you see that they learn to do a couple of things. So they can be patient on their own, and they can also haul a little bit. Take care that you keep the child really safe in this regard, because children are really not that good at keeping themselves safe. They run slow, they're vulnerable, and, just saying. And after that, the growth phase is happening. You now see that the child has a couple of meters that a normal colonist doesn't have. You see growth tier and learning. So growth tier is a system which depicts how well the development of the child is going on, whereas learning is the fulfillment meter of the child. So basically that's giving you an impression of how much learning fits into the child. So to give your child something to learn, you need a school desk and you need Blackboard. Each school desk can be linked to 3 blackboards. You also need chairs. And now, from this point on, your colonists will give lessons to the child. And if you follow the child here, there's this learning meter, and they will only do learning activities voluntarily, so there's nothing you can force. You can only produce, you can only offer options. Every now and then, the child will meet up with a adult and sit down here and have some lessons there. Let's hope they'll do that sometime soon. And that's a phase where your mini colonist does learn new things from the other people. As far as I've seen, there is no way to force that. It's very similar to research, but it's directly linked to childcare. So if you want to want to have enough we have malnutrition, sorry. If you want to have enough skills on your child, you better take care that you have enough different teachers for it around. That's pretty important to say. So your child has a 3-stage development cycle. The more lessons it gets, the more opportunities for learning it gets, the better it will, the more options it will have at each threshold point. There's a threshold point at the age of 7, at 10, and 13. So these are the 3 points where your little dude is going to go into a new stage. I'm going to show you what that's like here. Little Alboyo is getting a lesson about social. So this will take a while, and this will build up your little dude. The more opportunity you have to teach the child, the more it will learn. And look at this learning meter as a satiation bar. The closer it is to 100% the entire time, the better. And as you see here, the fuller the learning bar, the more progress to the next growth tier per day is happening. So basically, the equation is pretty simple. The more learning meter, the more development, and the more development, the better the child's options to get into the next stage. So there's a mad squirrel in here. That's a pretty naughty little tutorial here. So let's make Alboyo old enough to get his next development stage, to show you how the mechanics work. So make 1 year older. So our little dude here is now 4 years old. I want to make a pin here because we need that more often. And so now he's 5, now he's 6, and now he's 7. As you see here, now we have a growth moment. Let's enable the growth moment. So here we see now his development. This is not, of course, not how it should look like, because we fastened up the development artificially. There should be way more points here. We get now a readout about his development, what kind of new jobs he can fulfill now as a 7-year-old, and we get to choose a trait. As you see here, I only get to choose 1 trait, and that's all. That's because the growth tier was at 0 at this stage. Let's give you the other example. Let's set the growth tier to max. Let's set it to 8, and speed up the clock for little Alboyo again, given to the second threshold point. So as you see here, second growth moment, and now with the growth tier 8, the world's looking completely different. So we get to select 3 passions, none of them doubly right now, but you could stack them at the next growth moment, and we get to select one of these traits. As you can now see clearly, growth tiers really matter a lot. So to give you now another impression about something in between, let's set up growth tier 4 and complete his growing process. But as you see here, in real time, this is a damn long process. And here we had no time dilation. As you saw there at the baby, we had a 4-day add-on per day that I slapped on via dev mode. And here we had, if I slapped on 1 year, it was 1 year. So the faster time dilation for growth stops when the baby turns into a child. So we're talking about a process of 9 years until your colonist turns into a grown-up. So that's a pretty long process, so just so you know. Now, the next growth moment of an average one, as you see here, we can only select one passion here, and we get a bigger say in the traits. So, well, it's pretty clear that you always will want to have a high as possible growth tier development on your little dude, and in general, the wealthier your colony, the easier this will be. And I think that sums up pretty much everything you need to know about the childhood. I just want to mention here, it might take 9 years, but the child gets more and more useful along the time. So it is not like you're like you have a useless person to get through the entire time. That's a pretty cool process, because this way you really grow used to the people and can watch their development quite well. All right, next point, technology and children. So in the research bar, we can find the fertility procedures technology. That's one thing. And the other thing is the growth vats technology hidden behind microelectronics. These are the two technologies that have a influence on the topic of children and education. We're going to look at these. The growth vat, I want to talk about it first because it's quicker explained. It's pretty simple. It is a little thing, well, it's not that little, but it's a machine that you can put up where you can breed a fetus in. And we're going to demonstrate that in a moment, but let's first check out the other part of the technology here, the fertility technologies or fertility procedures. So as we see here, it opens up a couple of operations, and the topmost here, extract ovum for IVF, is the technology or the operation you need to make a pregnancy happen outside of a human body, which can be pretty cool because it doesn't put so much of a strain on anybody on your colony. So let me show you real quick how that works. So you need a female colonist, and you put the operation on that person to extract ovum for IVF, and that's pretty much everything you need to do. Then person goes to bed, gets tended. Well, all right. Let's see. I bet he was no doctor. And then you send somebody who's assigned as doctor for the operation. And then you get some medicine carried over there, and then you have the ovum of the mother. This is basically what you need to now make a baby with whoever you want to. So let's say we're going to have Rogaray. You click that thing, you click fertilize, and then you select the other person, Rogaray, and now Rogaray will go on over there. fertilize the ovum. It's now fertilized embryo of eagle and rogurai, and then we can insert it into growth vat. And that's that. This is a much easier way of getting the whole thing done comparatively. But as you see here, there's nothing getting done yet because there's no nutrition in the growth vat yet. So the growth vat is, of course, not without a price. It does not only need power, it also needs food to work. So you better have a couple of things. Whoopsie, that was not the button. You better have a large amount of food available before you go for a vat. But beyond that, well, it ain't that problematic. You just have to wait for the embryo to hatch, so to say. As you see here, they're now filling nutrition in. And now the embryo goes in. And now you see the time until birth is 8 days. And then it's basically the same procedure as explained in the baby section. It's just not happening inside the mother, so to say. And I personally find that pretty much more effective if you can afford it, that is. The other technologies that we unlock in the fertility procedures tech are IUDs are for making pregnancies no longer happen for female. And we also have tubal litigation as a total sterilization for female, and vasectomy as a sterilization for male colonists, which can be reversed. The tubal ligation is not reversible. And all these operations can be assigned here, of course, in the operations menu. There's nothing too special about that. Just make sure that you have a good doctor, a good hospital room, the usual things, you know. So that being said, there's not much more behind it. I have no more mechanics to explain. That's how you raise children. It's a very time-intense procedure for sure. So the last thing that I want to talk about are a bit of tips and tricks and little things that might help you handling your experience with the children. So first off, I want to show you here in the settings for the storytellers. You can modify the storyteller settings, customize these. Down here, you will find the settings for the children mechanics. You can also totally disable children if you don't want to have anything to do with all of that. And most importantly, you can also change the health, the birth rules, so children can always be born healthy. And here you can also adjust the aging meters. This can be really cool if you don't want to wait 9 years, and if it pisses you a little off that you need to wait that long, this meter is just for you, and you can have things happen faster. Just keep in mind that when you put this meter up, you also have less time to develop the skills of your little ones, but, you know, sometimes that might be something you might want to have. And the next thing that I want to talk about is, well, I already mentioned it, but be well prepared for babies if possible, because you really will be needing a lot of your nerve for that. And since it's such a long-term time investment, it's really quite tragic if you happen to have a problem with that. So like somebody dies and you lost just 4 years of work, so to say. So it's better to be prepared. Have a lot of food, have medicine, have a good doctor, and probably just set up your social tab in your couples, because here in the social tab you can regulate how they should handle their pregnancy. That's pretty important to note. And with this little thing here, you can quarter the pregnancy chance in times you don't want to, and you can quadruple the chance in times you want to. So this is a pretty cool thing, and really a good tip to know. This way you can change a little bit how the pregnancies are handled. The other thing, of course, if you don't want a couple to have babies at a time, just don't give them a double bed. that is really killing the chance of loving, and no loving, no babies. And when it comes down to education, it's pretty simple. The more blackboards, 3 are the maximum, the more learning rate. Never do a school desk without the maximum amount of blackboards, simply because blackboards are dirty cheap. There's just 15 wood involved to it, or, well, some stone, as you see there. There's really literally no good reason not to do this. So when you do education, do it with a ton of blackboards, because that's just way to go. Beyond that, well, there's also worth mentioning that due to the fact that you can't cross genes, this is a very cheap way of getting xenogenes on a new colonist. So if you want to apply extra genes to somebody, it would be sometimes a pretty interesting option to extract an ovum from a prisoner and just mix and match genes from an interesting species. Just make sure that you keep an eye on the genes. Only the gray ones are inheritable. The blue ones are not inheritable. So beyond that, I don't really have much more to say. I already mentioned one last thing, but that pretty much, I think, goes without saying. Growth vats are the more effective way of growing babies. The classic pregnancy is really a lot harder compared to just having a machine that does the job for you. And I think as soon as you can get there, it's worth getting there. That's all that I wanted to add to this topic. So thanks for watching, everybody. Drop me a comment down below if you have any other tips and tricks you want to share. I'd be eager to hear. Leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Last shout out here again to the support links down there. PayPal, Patreon, and Twitter are buy me a coffee, not Twitter, are ways and means to support this channel. And of course, check out the playlist to the other videos as well. I'd be really delighted if you'd give them a look. I hope you had a good time. Feel free to leave me a recommendation about other topics what you want to see tutorials about, even about other games as well. I'd be really happy to hear from you. Thanks for watching this video until this point. Have a very nice day and see you soon.